The Realtors Association of Edmonton official forecast for 2021 is wrong. Well, that's my opinion anyway. Hi, I'm Brent MacIntosh. I'm the team leader at the MacIntosh Group at RE/MAX River City. Thanks so much for clicking play. I want to go over the numbers from the recent official forecast from the Realtors Association of Edmonton. The meeting started off just like it does every year, where we go over the numbers from last year. I'm not going to give you those numbers because I've had those in some previous posts and videos. Let's talk about what they're predicting for the upcoming market. The Realtors Association of Edmonton is calling for a 0.8% decrease in the value of single-family homes here in Edmonton for 2021, a 1.2% decrease in condominium values, and a 0.8% decrease for attached houses. They're predicting a decrease in sales for single-family homes by 4.7%, a decrease for condo sales by 4.6%, and that number for attached houses should be down by 2.4% in their opinion. They're also suggesting that single-family listings will be down by 0.5%, a decrease in condo listings by 2.2%, and 2% less attached home listings on the market for 2021. Now, before I tell you why I disagree with most of these numbers, let's talk about some of the other speakers that were there that day. Benjamin Tall, the Deputy Chief Economist of CIBC World Markets, and Lynette Tremblay, the Vice President of Strategy and Innovation from Edmonton Global, had excellent presentations, and both think the horizon for Edmonton for 2021 looks good. Some of my takeaways from their speaking include that the economy is already down. The worst is behind us. The worst is over, and that 2021 should be better. Businesses are now equipped for doing more online work. People are working from home more than they ever have, and using the internet more than they ever have for work. There's an improved confidence. As we've gotten used to these conditions, we should see some more risk-taking from people this year as they'll start spending money in the economy again. Most of the spending decline, by the way, here in Canada is by high-income households. So spending in the marketplace is down by 10% in those high-income households, where it's only down 4% in the low-income households here in Canada. And that's because those low-income households spend most of their money on things like rent, food, clothing. So in the most part, their spending habits didn't change for the past year. And in some cases, because of those CERB payments, there were some households that actually made more income in 2020 than they did in 2019. I've also heard that there is a huge decline in the personal bankruptcies for 2020. That's actually a good sign for an improved economy. Lynette reminded us that here in Edmonton, compared to all the other major cities in Canada, that there's a high quality of life with a low cost of living and a really diverse set of housing options. Maybe the most interesting stat from the meeting was in Ben's presentation was that only 10% of the people affected financially by COVID-19 are homeowners. 90% of Canadians affected financially by COVID-19 are renters. That was really fascinating to me. That's why we're seeing this huge increase in the vacancy rate across the country and not a decrease in the real estate resale market. The banks were in a position that they could actually defer mortgage payments from some of their clients, whereas landlords, even if they wanted to, weren't necessarily in a position to be able to defer rent. And so that's where we've seen a lot of people not being able to pay their rent, having to move out of properties and move in with family or share accommodations with other families. And so that's really affected the vacancy rate, where again, most people who were affected by COVID-19 were renters. Now, back to why I think the forecast is wrong, or at least partially wrong, for 2021. We're starting 2020 with an incredibly low amount of inventory, especially for single family and attached housing. Unfortunately, condominiums is still high when it comes to inventory. We'll talk about that here shortly. When they talked about the condo prices dropping, I think that they were actually being conservative, So I think that the condo prices are going to drop even more than the 1.2% that's been predicted. Starting in June of 2020, all the way through December, we saw record months for sales. And I see no sign of those months and those sales dropping suddenly now that we're in 2021. And because of those record sales and the amount that are selling, you're going to see prices go up, not down like the real estate board's predicted. If you've seen any of my market updates for the past 6 months, you know that condo sales have definitely not been brisk, that people are looking for actually larger spaces more than core locations. So there was a trend for some time of everybody moving back towards the core of the city. And now we're seeing that trend as people are working more and more from home, that you can get a larger house the farther you leave the core, and more space, more yard, even go out to an acreage. And so we're seeing a lot more people work from home and not have to make that drive to downtown. So for years, there's been a demand for downtown and the core of the city. That's changing. Acreage sales and sales in the burbs saw record years. We're going to see even more sales for that type of property. Again, driving up the single family values and those acreage values. Mortgage rates. When was the last time you saw mortgage rates this low? The answer, never. We've never seen mortgage rates this low, and the Bank of Canada has already stated that those rates are probably going to stay this low for years to come. This will help drive the market. I'm not suggesting we're going to see a 10% increase in values by any means, but I don't think we're going to see values drop. And in fact, I can easily see values for single family acreage and attached housing go up by 2 to 5% in 2021. As far as sales go, I'm not sure why the real estate board thinks that there's going to be less sales. In March of 2020, our Edmonton real estate market came to a screeching halt for 2.5 months. That's something that I don't think we're going to experience this year. Again, we're sort of used to these conditions. And in fact, I would suggest that April, May, and June are going to be our busiest 3 months of this year. So this is going to be a more regular or more predictable year for sales. The association also thinks there's going to be less listings for 2021. I have to disagree again. I don't know why. Why would there be less? I understand why we had 2,000 less single-family homes listed last year. People were scared, didn't understand what was going on. They didn't want strangers coming into their house. Again, I'm going to keep saying it. We're more used to these conditions. You're going to see more inventory on the market. Now, are we going to see as many homes listed as we saw in 2018 or 19? Probably not, but I would suggest that we'll see more homes listed than we saw in 2020. Now, as Albertans, we know how tough things are right now. It's challenging, to say the least. Some absolute horrible conditions in the energy sector. Alberta has one of the highest unemployment rates in the country, but as we know, Albertans are tenacious, and especially here in Edmonton, there's some reasons to be hopeful for 2021. Edmonton is one of Canada's youngest cities. Our average age is 36 years old. And so what does that mean? It means that a whole bunch of millennials are about to buy their first home, really driving our market. And Edmonton is still one of Canada's most affordable major cities. The median sales price here in Edmonton for a single family house is under $400,000. When we compare, Calgary is $466,000, Ottawa, $580,000, Victoria, $910,000, and in Toronto, the median sales price for a single family home is $1.05 million. Definitely not affordable. Now, it's impossible to be 100% accurate when we talk about these forecasts, and we'll see, time will tell who's correct, either the Real Estate Association or me, or maybe it's somewhere in between. But my prediction is that for attached and detached single-family houses and acreages, we're going to see values rise by 2 to 5%, and condo values likely will drop by about 2 to 5% in 2021. Although I think we're going to see more sales in 2021, I also think we're going to see a lot more inventory than what we experienced last year. So that sold to list ratio is going to drop. And so In 2020, for single family homes, the sales to list ratio was 63%, and in 2019, it was 54%. I think it'll probably be somewhere in the middle, that we're probably going to see it around 57 or 58%. For condos, it's probably going to be pretty similar to 2020. That number was 41%, meaning 41% of the condos that were listed in 2020 sold. I expect to see about the same number in 2021. Thank you so much for clicking play and playing along. If you have any questions about what I've talked about, please reach out to me or any one of our team members. We're happy to talk about the market. I wish you a safe and happy 2021.